Hello, Ute here of Trans Widow Ute Hagen YouTube channel and of WordPress blog, utehagengrasswidow.wordpress.com. I just put something up there. You might want to go check it out. It was from the Daily Signal. And of course, here I am with ripe strawberries. Here's a strawberry that somebody already got before I could pick it. I have mesh protecting my strawberries, and it's weighted down with rocks. So I'm hoping to have a harvest. We're starting to get some ripe ones. And now this is another one of my bouquets. This is a mixed bouquet. Here we have Sweet William and just one of the Lark Ascending, and the rest are from my other rose bushes. This is just really the best time of the year for roses, and I'm going to try to have part of that in this video. Now, this video is for the women who are just unfortunately finding out, having that shock of a husband who is saying to you, look at this on my computer, I wrote you a letter. Or you regard his behavior as suspicious, and you have the right to know what's going on in your life. And so you go, like I did, into his suitcase to see what is he writing in some diaries. Now, that was an incredible shock. I read that out the way I wrote it in my memoir, In the Curated Woods, True Tales from a Grass Widow. At the time that I published it, exactly about a year ago, I felt that I daren't use the word trans widow in the subtitle of my book because Abigail Schreier's book and Helen Joyce's book were both, for a time, I think, banned from YouTube, or not from YouTube, from Amazon or Barnes and Noble, all of those, where some of their corporate offices are populated by Netties. Nettie being my executive in a tech firm, ex-husband, who lied about his employment, and I didn't know that he was the chief operating officer and that he was in an equity contract until it was really too late for me to take it all back to court so that I could get the child support that he stopped paying. So this message is just, to any woman who is unfortunately finding herself in my shoes. Believe it. It is very difficult to give up on this person, but I have spoken now to dozens, somewhere between 2 and 3 dozen trans widows. And I'm seeing patterns that no one else is keeping track of, and I'm actually going to go back and review my notes and review my old videos, because there are patterns of behavior. Once this guy starts lying, he is going to continue lying. His therapist is going to justify his lying. So, first of all, I want to my first piece of advice: if you are discovering that your husband is going out cross-dressing and that he has some kind of idea that he needs to identify differently than his sexed body, what I recommend you first do is limit the time. And what I mean by that is, if you have children, start limiting the time. Do whatever you can with trusted hired babysitters, trusted relatives. It's very difficult for us because some people that are our blood relatives believe that they have to lecture us, and they don't want to know the truth about the infidelities and the unsavory parts of this. But what I'm seeing with my now approaching 3 dozen statistics is that the lying is very, very big and deep. And I actually believe that in the weekend before I discovered Nettie's diaries, when he was in San Francisco for a so-called business trip, I believe that he had to have gotten involved with some kind of escort doing sex role play, because there is no other reason why, after all the cross dressing he had been doing for over a year, why would he suddenly need to shave off the body hair, all of his arm and leg hair, and his chest hair? Why would he need to do that while in San Francisco? He was already, it was obvious from what I read in the diaries that he was already dressing up and going out to gay bars. He said that he felt safe there. I think he felt safe there because actually he was attracted to those men and he was playing a big game of pretend. And probably because of the tradition among homosexuals of various kinds of cross-dressing, of dressing like women, they weren't necessarily interpreting what he was doing as what he thought he was doing, which is misnamed by the sexologists, the PhD psychologists who take people's money to make a one-appointment diagnosis. They call that the true life test, and that is anything but true life. So I did not limit my time right away. I was trying to figure out what was going on. It was August of 1992. I didn't have a great deal of information. There was one lesbian PhD psychologist that I got some very good advice from. And I would say limit your time, start sleeping in the other bedroom. Do not take risks with trying to get him to come to his senses and realize how he is actually the heterosexual guy, your husband that you married, and if you are just alluring enough or exciting enough or something like this, that he will leave that off and come back to you. He is being sucked into something that has the lure of drugs. It has the lure of dopamine. It has the lure of all of the positive pinging chemicals in the body. Plus, there is a lot of illegal drugs, cocaine and hallucinogens, not to mention pot, in those particular settings, and it's very, very accepted. I'm hearing now from escorts who had some exposure, former escorts. They've retired from this, they regret it, all this. I am hearing that in the back rooms of the drag shows, who are supposedly guys who know they're guys, but they just like to dress up like this, like some female clown. They, in the back rooms, are snorting coke. I have heard this too often. I have to give you this information here. These are the dirty little secrets that are swept under the rug and not handled at all by the psychiatrists, the psychologists, the therapists, etc. And this has been confirmed to me so many times. And if it's not illegal drugs, then with too high of a percentage of these guys, there's also heavy drinking. So, it's very, very complicated when you have a child. It's important to figure out where can you get support, where in this climate that we live in, where the Associated Press is making rules about reporting falsely on transgender ideology such that their reporters are not supposed to call it transgender ideology. I call it cross-sex ideology because I believe that is much more accurate, and I don't believe in muddying the waters by substituting the word gender for sex. It's much, much more clear if the word sex and sex categories of male and female are this discussion. Now, for me, the tax situation got very, very complicated, and I wanted to bring this up right away because the attorneys absolutely missed it. It should have been written into my divorce that if Nettie stopped for any reason paying the child support, that Uta, the mother, is entitled to claim both children on her income taxes, both state and federal, because it is understood that the mother is going to be handling most of the expenses. Now, Nettie was very, very resentful. He spent thousands and thousands of dollars on himself, and I just heard from a trans widow that I'm in communication with about getting her story out. It's pretty long and complicated, but she said that sometime during the divorce, it came out that her ex spent $70,000. Now, Juliet's ex spent something like $60,000 in a period of less than a year. These are in short periods. And so it's highly likely that it's not just clothing that they are paying for. They are paying for escorts who are euphemized by them and their therapists as sex surrogates, because they have the mistaken idea that they can pretend to be a woman and experience what they imagine to be female rapture. So now another thing that, if you can at all afford it, is when you're getting into the legal process, get a forensic accountant, because at least a forensic accountant can make a report and say his numbers don't add up. So it's unfortunate. I feel that these attorneys really should be able to handle all the considerations about tax deductions and financial issues, division of property, division of investments, all that kind of stuff, without a forensic accountant, because you're paying them so much. But unfortunately, they're not trained in that. And so I really feel that it's pretty important to get a forensic accountant. And at the very least, even if you think that he is going to refuse to cooperate with a forensic accountant, you need to bring that phrase up. And when you are suing for divorce, be sure in that paper to make a statement about all the jobs that you have had and all the investments and payments for family and household expenses that you have been involved in. That was a mistake for me, because he made a false statement, which I had a great deal of difficulty to refute, because he claimed that since I had been a professional dancer during the first part of our marriage before we had children, and he had various kind of tech and library jobs, he claimed that he had been supporting me, that he had been financially funding my dance classes and so on like that. And nothing could be further from the case. Nothing could be further from the truth. I believe he was encouraged to say something like that by his attorneys. He went through 5 of them, paid none of them. And they did not go after him because, it makes a story. So you and I think he was lying to them. I mean, you don't tell someone that you're the chief operating officer and you have an equity contract in this company that you're working for, but then you can't afford to pay your legal fees. And he claimed that he couldn't pay our children's college costs, all that stuff. I had to go back to court, pay an attorney thousands of dollars to get at least some back child support. I was actually unable to prove, because I didn't get a forensic accountant, I was unable to prove that he had the high salary that he did, that should have been a given. We should have had to provide our tax statements, our federal income tax returns. But I ended up getting investigated by the IRS because I thought I had a verbal agreement with him when he was claiming to be unemployed, that since he was not paying child support, I would file the children on our tax deductions. I got fined. I was penalized. I was threatened. It was very, very scary. The IRS was very, very scary with me. And there he was, the one lying. But they said to me at the IRS that I spoke with an agent. There was a case, all this stuff. I had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars in back taxes because they said I don't have it in the legal papers that this contingency that I thought we verbally agreed to. Now, why I thought any verbal agreement with Nettie would be abided by, that's my bad. But I should have taken him to court basically as soon as he stopped paying child support. I should have had him followed by a detective. And I believe that he probably also spent that kind of money, tens of thousands of dollars on wardrobe, on electrolysis, on the breast implants, on probably sex surrogates slash escorts slash prostitutes. I really believe that he could self-justify any of that because that helped him to avoid going into any kind of quality therapy to deal with the fact that his father had serious problems and beat him and his sister when they were young children with a belt for something as minor as laughing in the back seat of the car. Look critically and analytically at what are your personal health risks and get tested for AIDS and for any other warts, herpes, anything. I really think you need to know that this guy is not going to tell you the truth, and he has been taking risks when he goes out to these places, because these are places that we don't even realize exist. We don't think about going to strip clubs. We don't think about going to drag shows. We are mothers taking care of kids. We are people, trying to deal with an uncommunicative and narcissistic husband, and we think that we're trying to help him and trying to help the family get ahead in the world, and he is not on the same page with that at all. So this is part one of the harsh realities of what you need to do. And if there are children involved, please do not generously start giving him time, because I did that thinking I want my children to have time with him while he still lets them call him dad. And I was too generous with him, and he was very, very clever at turning the children against me and setting the seeds of disbelief in my motherhood. Yes. So this was a heavy one. I'm fine. I'm hoping it's going to rain. We had a few raindrops, but if it doesn't, I will be out there weeding and transplanting. In some cases, with the mint and so on, I'm putting dishwater on them. That's how dry it is. Some plants can tolerate dishwater. Take care.